Welcome to the season 8 of the VML. I'm here today. I'm Filipa with Sky, and we are adding to week number 5, and we have a lot of cool matches to show you this week. How are you doing, Sky?
I am doing well, Felipe. I am so excited. So we are getting into that point in the VML season where we're starting to look at playoff scenarios, right? And it's one of those like you kind of want to say whatever happens, happens, but then you're also finding yourself like refreshing so much on like Sunday, Monday, just waiting to see what happens. So we are definitely getting to that high point in the season. And I, for one, am excited to see how things unfold tonight. How are you doing, Felipe?
I'm doing great, and tonight we have a lot of the games that you said. A lot of players are XN2, which means that probably if they lose this week, they're off. And it's a very important week where these decisions are starting to make. And me, myself, being 3-2 right now, I'm in the position where I can still make it or not. It depends. So, really fun. And I really like our Brother War shaped meta. I'm seeing so many different decks. What is the favorite deck that you have seen with the new season, with the new expansion?
Oh my gosh, there are so many good ones out there. So it's like, is it my favorite to play or is it my favorite to actually see in action, but I don't want to play against it? That's a very difficult thing to do. So, me personally, I like Rakdos builds still. I am a big fan of Gix. I'm a big fan of Shieldred. Just absolutely adoring anything with black and red or black and red together in it. Just so many different weapons that black has received within the last two sets. How about you?
I am on exactly the same page. For those of you that know me, I love Rakdos Sacrifice. I love Mono Black as well. And we actually have a Mono Black match this week. And it's really, really fun with the cards that you just mentioned. So I'm really excited to see this new Mono Black build. And I think the player even named the deck Mono Black is Back or something like that. So I'm really excited for this because it's one of my favorite archetypes. And we can, I think, talk now about our sponsors. They are Wizards of the Coast and Good Luck I5. Thank you so much for sponsoring VML. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you so much. And today we are starting with a match which is between Nicole and Jen. Oh, we are going to see the Midrange breakdown right now. I think we have a slide prepared. Okay, so here we have. So Grixis is the most chosen deck. 29 people chose to bring Grixis Midrange. What do you think about this, Kai?
It doesn't surprise me. Again, we were talking about everything in red and black just being super powered right now. And then when you couple that with counter magic, of course it's going to be Grixis midrange. That counter magic can make the biggest difference, especially in the mirror match. So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. What does surprise me here that the second most picked deck is Azorius Soldiers. So again, when you think about blue-white, you don't think about aggro, you're thinking about control. Well, the Brothers War flipped everything upside down with that. And now we have Azoria soldiers. Think synergy, think tribal. There's just a ton of awesome things you can do with Azoria soldiers. But then you kind of leave yourself vulnerable to those board wipes. So there is that. So this breakdown's really interesting. I tend to like to look at, okay, well, what are the corner case decks? What else did folks bring here?
We have a lot of different decks. We have 26 fringe decks, which is decks that have 2 copies or less. It was really difficult to make this slide because there was so many different decks compared to other weeks. One thing that surprised me is that, for example, Esper Midrange, that has been dominating the format before Brothers War, now only has 7 copies, which is really low from what we have seen lately. But here on these other different decks you were talking about, I can see, for example, some Mono Black that we talked about, Selesny Enchantments, and Mardu Angels, which myself chose to bring this week. What about you? What deck is surprising you?
Well, I expected to see a little bit more with Selesny enchantments. There's not a ton of answers to some of the stuff that that deck is trying to do. So I expected to see a little bit more of that in terms of the decks that have been brought frequently. That is a surprise. Mono Blue Tempo is just a tad bigger than I thought it would be on this chart here. So again, lovely metagame breakdown here. And as for corner cases, we have some excellent matches coming up tonight that kind of address those fringe decks.
We definitely do. So I think it's the second one we're going to show, but it's definitely going to be 2 decks that we have never seen before on coverage, at least. So I'm really excited for us to cover those ones. But first, we have a bit of a more mainstream one. We have Nicole here that chose to bring Esper Midrange. What do you think of this deck?
So Esper midrange, I would describe is pretty standard fare. We have Rafine as, of course, the star of the deck, the one where if you don't have an answer immediately, things are going to get rough pretty quickly, especially if it gets out of that cut down range, a frequent favorite of folks playing black. We also have the one and only Shieldred. Just expect, every time I go to social media, Shieldred is trending. Just look out for Shieldred. If you don't have an answer, that's going to be a big issue. Wedding announcement, as consistent as can be, generates tokens, draws cards. However you want to do it, this deck can do it. And of course, look out for the silver bullets. There we see a Kaido here. We also see some AO action here, a little bit of counter magic, a Sarah Paragon here. Just again, what doesn't this deck do? Watch out for it. It's good in a lot of different scenarios.
For sure, this deck is very versatile, very good, and that's why it's been one of the most chosen decks for the past weeks. Now dropping a bit, but still, Nicole's your choice. And Nicole is playing against Jen, which is also bringing, I think, the most played deck, although with a bit of a twist. So this is Grixis Sacrifice. And what is the difference between Grixis Sacrifice and Grixis Midrange?
So that's a wonderful question. So we do see in the mid range, we still see the Fable the Mirror Breaker here, which if you're playing red, you're playing Fable. That's just going to be the way it goes. But in terms of the Grixis Anvil deck here, we have Anvil, of course, to start. We also have the Third Path Iconoclast. My goodness, this is a huge token generator here. And then we have Saheeli, brand new Planeswalker, out of the Brothers' War. Watch out for not only the ultimate, but it can spit out Thopters. It can just support the field. Also, if the board gets wiped again, Saheeli can also be a backup plan, as well as those anvils. Those tokens just keep coming and they don't stop coming.
Yeah, and they drain you fast. I really like this deck. It's one of my favorites, so I'm really excited to see this match. And both Jen and Nicole are at 2-2, so it's a decisive match for both of these players. And I'm really interested to see how they play it. Here, who do you think has the advantage, the Esper player or the Grixis Sacrifice player?
It's a very tough question. I would say this is pretty evenly matched. The player who can probably get out Shieldred and stick Shieldred is going to be a little bit of an issue, but then you also have this combo between Fable the Mirror Breaker and just everything that this can spit out onto the field. So you do have that token generation. You do have the Anvil, which can quickly replace the field. I'm going to personally give the slight edge to the Esper deck, if only because I feel like it can handle some corner case decks, but watch out for the Grixis Sacrifice. It steals games pretty easily.
It does. So let's see these games, and I'm really, really excited here. We also asked some fun questions of the players, so it's really nice that our viewers can check these questionnaires we did. The players were able to tell us what favorite planeswalker they have and other questions. Okay, so opening hand, I can already see that Nicole doesn't have blue, but she decided to keep this hand. What do you think?
I like the cheeky turn one duress, first of all. Like that is just
Yeah.
it's so bold, but it's so right to do in this format. So I very much enjoyed this decision. It's a little risky, but you do have already 2 out of your 3 colors here. And that's something I should have pointed out in the metagame. There's a lot of 3-color decks floating around right now. I want to see how that mana, how mana is, especially within the first 5 turns, can affect the flow of the game.
Definitely. And that's the reason why I've been preferring to play Rakdos instead of Grixis, for example, mainly because of the mana base. But you do have a lot of advantage to be a bit more risky with the mana because you do have some good cards in blue. And here, Harvester turn 2, which I think it's the most common for Rakdos players to do these days. And already starting to attack, we see Children in Hand, which is a key card. And Anvil, there we have blood token can be sacrificed, create a 1/1, start training. This deck can start going places here.
This is very much the power play move there. Look at that. Just like that, Nicole is a little behind on the board state right now, but that was
Yeah,
a great draw with the Rafine's Tower earlier. So we may see some double wedding announcement action here.
for sure. But what Nicole is missing is a fourth land, which might be punishing because there's 2 wedding announcements, as you said there. That's really important, but a lot of higher cost cards in hand. So let's see how that turns out. And here, the Grixis deck starts doing his thing, right? Sacrificing stuff, getting stuff back from the graveyard.
Wow. So this move was really awesome. I half expected the Shieldred to happen, but I like the Fable move here because now we're doing what Rakdos Anvil does best, and that's go wide. It even goes wider than that of the Esper deck, and that is something that Jen is trying to take advantage of early in the game.
Definitely. So those 1/1s are not as good when your opponent has the board filled with 1/1s, 2/2s, 3/2s. So I definitely like this play by Jen. She obviously showing experience with the deck. And suddenly Nicole is already at 10.
Yeah, just like that. Remember where I said that the Anvil deck can sneak games? This deck will sneak life out from under you until it's too late. And then all of a sudden, Shieldred hits the field, and it's like, well, there's nowhere else to go here. So, again, great choice here with the Fable early. Also, speaking of great choices, Nicole doing a great choice here by keeping the Make Disappear in hand, knowing that there might be something pretty powerful chosen here, and that prevented Sakili from hitting the board.
Exactly. And Shieldred as well, not able to come with this Make Disappear. But now Jen is playing pretty well because instead of making one big threat, she's playing two small threats, playing around that Make Disappear. So it doesn't feel as nice to counter an Harvester as it does to counter a Shahili or to counter a Shieldred, right?
Well said here. And also the surge here is going to prevent this from even being a trade. This is going to be a bad block here, unfortunately. No way of knowing, mind you, but my goodness, this is going to be a exceedingly big board advantage here. And we're not going to see the Make Disappear here because, again, we have to prevent those big threats here. Down to 7 already for Nicole is, again, this Anvil deck's just going wide and going just really, really, really into it. One thing I want to point out real quick is that, again, there is a great assessment of the board state here by Jen. Jen sees, okay, my opponent's not drawing mana, let's go wide.
Yeah, I think Jen played this game really well, making that Nicole has to keep that counter just to not lose the game on the spot. And by saving the counter, she cannot play anything, so she cannot develop the board. She doesn't have mana, so there's no way she comes back for the game. Farewell, for example, is one card that can turn the game. It costs 6 mana. When our opponent is stuck at 3, you're not afraid of it.
Some of the most powerful cards right now in the current meta, we have to figure out how to build decks around them, mind you. I've seen all different variants, are Farewell and Depopulate. They're very scary cards, both of them right now. And despite Farewell costing 6 mana, the minute you hit that 6 mana and you can figure out a way to move around Farewell, that's a very difficult card in state to come back from.
And here I see Geek's sideboard. What do you think of this card? This is a pretty fun card.
Yeah, so I played Gix this week in mono black aggro in my match, which I did win. And every time I saw it, it felt good. And my question for Wizards personally is, was the activated effect really necessary? This card is ridiculous as it is. I'm not complaining, but oh my goodness, what a loaded card Gix is.
Yeah, mono black getting a lot of love recently. Shieldred, Liliana, and now Grixis. Gix, I'm really happy for it. I love to see it. And here, what do you think of these sideboard decisions? We see a couple of duresses. I think they might be good. Where do you think of the rest of the sideboard?
So duress is a little tricky. Lately, normally you see duress as the sideboard option, but I've been seeing people, including myself, maining duress and then taking it out if it feels like it's just too much of an enigma as to if it's going to do anything. And this matchup against Esper, probably a good decision. Against Anvil, it's kind of up for grabs because there are going to be times where there's nothing but creatures in the hand or just lands and half the resources are already out on the field unless you nail it early. So duress is all about timing as to whether or not it's good. What I do like about the sideboard here is Ob Nixilis is exceedingly strong in this matchup. Being able to deplete Esper of its resources might be a pretty good way to get in the game. Same with Lily of the Veil here, and we're seeing this decision making right now. In come the Super Friends. I am excited for game 2. This is going to be fantastic.
I'm really excited as well. And one fun thing is that I also play with Ob Nixilis sideboard and I never know when to bring it in. I know that it's good, but I'm always never sure when it's the right time to bring it. And here, always what I also do, put cards in, and now difficult decision. What can I take out? Because all my cards are good, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I do like the fact, though, that there's a lot of thought going on here. You know, what is going to happen with this? Taking advantage of the full time. I see folks not always taking advantage of the full time. I'm guilty of this as well. As an aggro player, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do this, that, that, and that. But sometimes taking time to fully evaluate all the different scenarios that are going on here. So again, I compliment this method of sideboarding here. I really like it. It's calculated and it kind of gives the player a chance to kind of relax in between matches.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sideboard is a very important decision, and being able to have open deck lists is really important. We can consider everything their opponent has, including in the sideboard, and make more thoughtful decisions. And this makes the games much more interesting, right? What do you think of these opening ends?
I think we're about to see a pretty electric match here. Just two good hands going out. We were talking about this in the pre-show. No one ever wants to see someone run into mana issues early. I don't believe we're going to see this here. This looks excellent. We're going to have a really great matchup. It's going to be a matter of who ends up with the most board state at the end of this. And judging from these two hands, I don't know where this is going to end up. So everybody buckle up. This is going to be an awesome game too.
I totally agree. It's always not good when your opponent, especially playing the VML when everyone is so kind, to see your opponent struggle with mana, because we cannot really play Magic this way. So I'm really excited to see how this game is going to turn out. I see Lily in end. Lily is one of my favorite cards, so I'm really excited. But here, Nicole again keeping mana for that negate.
All right, so excited to see what comes off the research desk here. Research desk for lands, really. Totally valid strat here, as, you know, it kind of helps you filter through some stuff and maybe you'll get rid of some things you don't need early here. Loving the decision here. Curtains with 2 mana open. I wonder what Nicole is trying to do here.
Yeah, I really like Nicole method of playing, really conservative, really thinking about my opponent has all these big threats that I cannot really deal with right now. So I might as well play it and keep counters for Liliana, Sahili. We know that there's Obnixilis in sideboard, Fable as well. So a lot of good targets. But it looks like Jen kind of playing around it, right? Already going for the board being wide. And this is one of the new cards that I really like.
Yeah, I agree here. Board absolutely wide. Jen knows. Jen just has this instinct right now. Okay, 2 mana open. Why would there be a curtains played if not to counter a Liliana the Veil here? So yeah, great read here, which puts Nicole in kind of an awkward spot, right? Do you play the Shieldred and kind of temper the draw because there's a lot of drawing going on? Do you play the Rafine and try to establish a stronger board strat? And you can get it in the air. That's one of the advantages Esper has here. When I was talking at the beginning about who has the edge, I was thinking about Rafine in particular being a pretty big factor in this match. So this is a pretty pivotal turn for Nicole. And I'm wondering, while we're in the tank here, what's going to happen? I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer. This is just a puzzle that needs to be solved at this point.
Exactly, and even considering turning the curtains, the other side seeing the opponents that end, which is a really relevant information at this point, and that's the choice, which I really like actually. So Nicole cannot be too happy seeing Liliana here, Fable, Voltage Surge, and deciding to take the Liliana off. But this card, though, in the other side, it makes your opponent discard, but they also draw a card after. So.
Again, just both players playing very methodically right now, trying to figure out what's in their opponent's hands. So the one thing that was gained by Nicole during that turn was pretty in-depth knowledge of what's going on. It's going to change soon because there's going to be a lot of cards drawn, but there is that Shieldred kind of lurking in the distance. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, definitely a good thing about Shieldred, it doesn't die to the Surge, so that's a really big advantage. And yeah, so Surge, they're killing the curtains, Fable entering the battlefield, and this deck, I'm really liking it. It looks like it develops the board so fast.
Absolutely. Again, it's a very complicated deck to pilot too, and just Jen's doing it so well, just making it look like an absolute force in the current meta.
Yeah, and here one thing, I think Nicole wanted to play two spells, but the thing is that there's only one blue mana available, not allowing you to playing your two mana spells. So playing your creature and keeping the gate up. So going for Shieldred, what do you think of Shieldred here?
I like it when Chapter 2 on Fable the Mirror Breaker is about to happen. There is that Mishra's research desk that kind of gets around it because it says you may play, not draw. So there is that. But we'll see. I mean, it's going to help offset a few things, but the board's getting wide again, and that's where Jen plays the best with this deck.
Yeah, but Shieldred's being able to block a creature, although Nicole is not going to want to block a creature here, knowing about the surge, but still gaining life, which is really important. And suddenly Jen is already at 11 life, which is fairly low when there's a Shieldred on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Shieldred just does so many things. And as I was saying earlier, unless there is immediate response for it, Shieldred is going to cause some problems. It's so powerful for a single card, especially in standard right now.
But here, exactly what you said, Mishra's research deck goes around this draw ability. And Liliana being great when the opponent only has one creature, but not enough mana, or there is. I think.
That's the
No.
thing, right? Jen's playing multiple spells per turn, gaining multiple advantages here, whereas Nicole, with the unfortunate mana situation, that's a little rectified there, is still going to be kind of in catch-up mode right now in terms of the board state.
For sure. And she does need an answer for that Fable, because that Fable, with the Harvester on board, can get crazy really fast.
Yeah, it can take control of the board, certainly. So we have the token, the negates there. And that is a pretty good counter to negate. Jen with the duress in hand. Now, I'm going to eat my words here saying this is a great time for mid-game duress. Normally, mid-game duress is kind of I love it here. This is fantastic.
Yeah, and these duress amazing, because now Jen can play Liliana, although there's a token on the other side, but can play Surge on the token and then Liliana minus, wiping the board. And is there any out for Nicole at this point?
With Liliana the Veil, I do not believe so. Well, there is wipes, so I'm trying to think. I believe we saw Depopulate and a Farewell go in here, but I believe it's going to be next turn or bust, so we'll see. Can't be Farewell, so it's got to be Depopulate at this point, and that is a Rafine's Tower.
The cycle for the miracle, I guess.
Wait, Miracles, are we playing Avacyn Restored here? I don't see Bonfire of the Damned. Sorry, I had to.
Oh, that's not a bad card, but it's a bit too late.
Yeah.
And here a concession. Good games by both of our players here. Congratulations to Jen on the clean 2-0 against Nicole. And it looks like this was a very, very interesting match. What did you think, Sky?
I think it was. The Anvil deck did way more than what I thought it would do against Rakdos. So again, this is why whenever you are up against an aggro deck or just period, you may, even if you are playing a mid-range deck, want to consider wipes, which was in, mind you, in the Esper deck, and it never got drawn. So it makes you wonder, how many wipes do you need to play against that Anvil deck to possibly win? Good games, though, on account of both players. Both of them held in there, and just, again, sometimes unfortunate mana situations happen. And when that happens, when you play against that Anvil deck, that field is just going to multiply. But again, great job to both players. Very difficult match all around.
Yeah, and beautiful played, always playing around what the other player might have, sideboarding, very thoughtful. I really like this, and we have a very interesting match after Sky. It's an archetype we haven't seen before, and this is going to be, let me just get our things here, Idol versus Josh. So if we can get here our players, we can see that Pure Heart Idols is playing Titania ramp. And have you seen this deck before? Because I certainly haven't.
I have not, but I do see a Portal to Phyrexia in there, which we already know it's already caused such havoc across multiple formats. The card feels borderline unfair if and when that hits the field. And in a ramp deck, we'll see it hit the field because that's the nature of ramp. Titan of Industry, always a juggernaut in the format. If you see a lot of green, you're going to see Titan of Industry. Never count a deck out with that in there because you can gain multiple advantages here. Mishra's Command, also another one worth looking out for as well. But again, we see the Farewell, right? If it even has potential to run white, Farewell is just one of those cards that can get you right back into the game. So I don't know what to expect. I want to see a little bit of meld action here, though, because we do have potential between Titania and the land as well to go with it. So I'm hoping that we get a chance to see some combos happen with this deck. I'm really excited. But yeah, I don't know what the primary strategy is going to be other than to maybe like seize control of the board, wipe the board, recreate the board. We'll see what happens. I'm really interested to see what happens.
Me too, very exciting. And on the other side, we also have a deck that I haven't seen play before. And Josh decided to bring Reanimator here, Boros Reanimator, and for Portal to Phyrexia right there.
You know, it would only be appropriate that both of these fantastic players would bring Portal to Phyrexian against each other. So these are like the two. I'm in Division 3 with both of these players, by the way. So both of them have always brought like just something kind of cutting edge to the forefront here. So it doesn't surprise me that both of these players would think alike here. But in terms of what's not alike, we do have Invoke Justice. The last thing we think about with Boros is Reanimator, right? That's typically Golgari's job, but we see it here done so well. So again, we're going to see destruction of the board, recreation of the board, and Portal of Phyrexia is going to do that. I want to see two portals going at it. I think it'll be unlikely considering one will have 4 copies and the other one has 1 copy, but my goodness, this is going to be, again, just an explosive matchup. I cannot wait to see the board states that erupt as a result of both these decks.
Yeah, let's see the games. And Josh here says that they think this is not a favorable matchup because there's not a lot of interaction, is most creature removal, and the deck isn't fast enough to go under Titan. So let's see how this plays out. I'm really excited to see. And looks like we have a fairly good opening hand with lands and spells. It's what we want to see. And there is Portal of Phyrexia on Pure Heart Idol side. So I guess on both sides, actually.
Wow. You know, I'm commentators cursing this thing. Whatever I said didn't happen was going to happen, or wasn't supposed to happen did happen here. So I love both of these opening hands, both doing what both decks are supposed to do here. We're going to have a little bit of ramp action here and a little bit of just, creature buildup here with the Raffine's Informant. We have Fable here, which is going to accelerate. So just gas on both sides of the field here to start.
Yeah. Raffine Informant being really good because it puts things on the graveyard, which it's exactly what Reanimated deck wants to be doing, right? And Fable just plays everywhere, right? I feel like we see Fable in every deck.
If you're playing red, you're playing Fable. That's what I've always told Magic players. Like, I always get that question, like, do I play Fable to play? The answer is yes. Yes. If you feel comfortable with the card, go right on ahead and play it,
I agree here. And Pure Heart already having access to ramp here with the Saga. But one side is trying to ramp, right, into the Phyrexian portal. The other side is trying to cheat it out of the grave. So it's going to be very interesting to see who has the advantage. Oh, I really like this play here, returning the Jeskai Visionary, preventing some damage, getting some cards. What do you think?
Yeah, that was a play. Again, like I said, I wasn't sure what to expect, but yeah, that's an amazing play. And I think I know what you were getting at here, Filipa. So there's ramp and then there's graveyard recursion, and both of them are kind of ramp in their own different ways, right? Like one ramps to the field, the other one ramps through lands. So we do see some similar gameplay here.
And there's Titania being drawn by Pure Heart, and I'm really excited because I want to see it enter the battlefield. I really like this card, I have to admit.
Oh yeah, who doesn't? And you don't get a chance to see it melded, at least in the games that I've played on ladder and in the VML. I've not seen it quite yet, so yes, please bring it on.
I like what both these players are doing, and I like that Pure Heart Idols is bringing these lands that we don't see often, the ones that you can sacrifice it and gain life. I really enjoy seeing, and both of these players are 3-1 in the division, so they are 1-2 in the division, which means that they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, these are my only losses right now for this division. Like I said, both players just bringing stellar decks to the table, playing very fluidly again. So again, we have Raffin's Informant here, and I see entirely what Josh is up to here. They are going to be copying that 1/1, drawing cards, having extra double strike available. This makes me really nervous just looking at this board state right now. But do not count Pure Heart Idols out of the way, as she also has a loaded hand with the Titan of Industry and the Portal to Phyrexia here. So again, let's expect the unexpected here. Titan's probably going to end up blowing up that artifact before it gets a chance to replicate. But again, there is Invoke Justice too. So again, just so many twists and turns to this match.
Definitely. I'm really, really excited. And Titan of Industry, such a good card. Touch the Spirit Realm is a very good answer, but being able to have entered the battlefield effects makes that removal is not as good, because you are removing something, but that creature already generated some advantage, right? So I feel like it has to feel pretty good here. But look at all these things coming back on
Oh my
Josh side.
goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again. Wow.
We are going to see the Invoke. Yeah, Invoke Justice getting that portal.
Oh, I feel so silly not recognizing that. What a play by Josh. Can you believe that? I forgot that artifacts could come back, and you
Yeah, I
discarded to
was
the
looking
graveyard.
at that card and I
Wow.
was like, if that card is cast, because that is one of the things. When your opponent is not playing blue, you know that there's not a counter on the other side, which I think makes these matchups so much more interesting. Because we are going to see players do busted things. And what do you think of sideboard here?
Well, I'm just trying to interpret what I just saw here, because again, no matter how long you've been playing Magic, we're always learning, right? And that was an instance where I absolutely learned from that. So, all right, let's take a look at the side deck now that I, kind of processing what happened here. So I saw the Torch Breath, by the way. That is Tale as Old as Time, ramp into direct damage. That's always a fun thing to do. Let's see what else we have in the sideboard here. We have some planeswalkers, we have some I love the depopulate. So remember what we were talking about before? The more you can destroy the field and slow down the very much aggro decks, the ones that are trying to get under before things happen. This is just both side decks here, just really impressive here. So let's see what ends up happening with the sideboard in particular here. I see the Battle Hymn as well too. A little bit of life gain there for the kick.
This is actually really, really interesting. I never seen these decks play before. It's the first time I'm seeing both of them playing, and it's fun that we are seeing both of these different decks play against each other. It's not like Esper Midrange versus Titania, it's Titania versus Boros Reanimator. So really nice that these players are taking VML on a more fun side and doing so well, bringing these decks, testing different things, not just bringing the meta. Because I'm guilty myself of just choosing a deck that is performing well in the meta game and just bring it. But when you bring your pet deck, it just feels so much better when you win it with it. What do you think of these ends, Sky?
Well, the beginning of this match here, this is looking a little tricky, right? So the ramp deck didn't want to throw back because, again, you have both the sagas here. You can get stuff out quickly, filter lands out of the deck. I get that, but you're also sacrificing that, thinking, okay, well, if my opponent starts strong, I'm going to be in trouble here. I don't have much to defend myself with. I say that, and then the Titan of Industry is drawn. So I was definitely saying that with a limited amount of knowledge at the beginning here, but we might see Titan earlier than we thought. In addition, we do have Shoot Down here.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, since you have to discard something, I think Portal is not the worst thing to do it, but you don't want to do it because you are not able to play anything and don't get a land.
Yeah, so we've all done this before. We've grabbed a 2-land hand saying, okay, I just need to grab any land for my deck and this works. I don't fault Josh for taking that hand. They have a very good hand. Fable can get them right back into it. And as I say that, here comes Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Josh taking that risk, pay it off here. But we do have a double Titan of Industry play here. My goodness, things are about to go down.
They are definitely about to go down, and I also feel the same way as you do. Especially, I tend to keep these two land ends when I'm on the draw a lot of the times. But here, punishing Josh a lot, and Titania after Titania, it's going to be so devastating.
So, Filipa, I expect to see both of these lists next week floating around the VML. This is just too neat. This is too neat to not try. I'm really enjoying these games right now. Again, well done by both players here. That is worth noting. This is ridiculously fun.
Yeah, and I remember in the beginning of the week, you Sky were like, "We have to get this on the feature match."
Oh yeah, I saw the
Yeah.
deck list and I was like, I'm like, there's combos here. I don't understand this, but I want to see it in action so I can learn better. And my goodness, have I learned today.
Josh had 4 here because pure art attacking with everything and not even playing. Like, just I have the better board state. I don't want to get board wiped. I want to keep a Titanian in case I do. I really like this play by pure art. What do you think? Like,
Yeah, I mean, a big part of Magic, especially, we have the deck list here in the VML. That is worth noting. We have the deck list beforehand. So Pure Head Idols, she did not want to overextend there, and there was no reason to. So great play there. And again, we are going into game number 3 right now. And one thing I did notice here, because again, I was trying to process the combo earlier, notice the mountain in the side deck, the Mishra's Commands, the Torch Breath, being able to side entirely out of a color is really neat to me because you'll never know what you're going to see as a result of that.
yeah, I completely agree. And here I'm really excited to see this game number 3 because, like, we saw both decks do what they do, right? We saw Pure Heart ramp, we saw Josh get reanimated things on game 1, and now things get a bit more tricky. This mole is kind of really difficult here for Pure Heart, but keeping in hand, what do you think of this hand on both players' sides?
I think this is an improved hand for Pure Heart, if anything, because again, that farewell can get her back into the game. I get the process behind that because the first hand was a little shaky, right? This one is still going to ramp. It's going to recover life. It won't do anything for a few turns, but this deck doesn't need to do something every turn, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, this deck just focuses on not dying early and eventually getting everything on the board. I see a card that I really like, Ren. Ren is a card I played a lot once it was released more than a year ago, but we haven't seen it play that much after. So I'm really excited to see this Planeswalker.
Absolutely here. And again, going for acceleration here. This is a very scary play for Pure Heart because, again, we don't have the sagas this time here, which were pretty pivotal to getting ahead in the last couple of games here. So now, do we play Shigeki here and just try to get into that farewell as soon as possible? Do you play Titania here? It's a pretty solid body with reach. Tough decision there. I don't think there was a right answer there necessarily, especially, again, we have perfect knowledge. Our players do not.
I agree there. It was a really difficult decision, but here I think Pure Art just admitting, like, let my opponent play into the board. Let me have something good to block, and in case I don't draw enough mana for Farewell or I cannot get it fast enough, at least I'm developing my board as well. Not being just reliant on the Farewell, which, let's be honest, is just such a great card in this matchup because it not only destroys, it exiles everything.
Yeah, so we see a Sarah Paragon go down there to touch the spirit realms in hand, invoke justice, possibly being in play soon. So this is again, you want to talk about a tangled board state here. There's nothing about this match that's straightforward right now. So we'll see what happens here. I think the card that's most terrifying right now is Farewell. If I'm in Josh's shoes, because they are relying upon right now, this state is about the art. It's about the evoke justice here. And I believe they probably are going to play it this turn, unless for some reason they wanted to play Touch the Spirit Realm instead. Again, not a right play and a wrong play, just very difficult decisions are being made here.
Definitely. And one thing that I see is that there's 2 invoke in hand, which is just such a great card, except when your opponent exiles everything you have. So let's see what. Oh, touch the spirit realm, getting revoked of Titania, and putting some pressure here on the board, attacking, but Pure Heart still at 22 life.
So, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the life there, Filipa, because I believe that that farewell is just going to be the difference maker here. And the use of the touch the spirit realm is you are going to get penalized if you get farewelled off of that, because not only do you lose your entire board state, your opponent gains a board state on top of that too. And this farewell is going to create the key point of tension here for this match. I don't know how Josh is going to recover from this. It'll be interesting to see.
I really like that play as well. I completely agree. So I'm really excited what happens when this farewell eats the board, because it doesn't seem like Josh, as you said, has a lot of answers for it. And this is the make or break it for George. This is the turn that they are able to play stuff. So, do you think we're going to see Invoke Justice here?
Maybe. I mean, there's really not much of a penalty for it, but it looks like we're just going to see more card draw here instead.
I like this play, playing it more conservatively, drawing cards, keeping the advantage. And I think Pure Heart now is forced to just farewell.
Yeah, absolutely. But this isn't such a bad state to farewell. I mean, there is an argument to be made avoiding one more turn and getting Shigeki back into the hand. So there is that. I mean, you do have a lot of life. But again, this is another decision branch here where you think about, okay, well, what is my plan post farewell? And again, there's a lot of decision making here, and I'm appreciating the time being taken here to think, okay, well, how am I going to do this? And it looks like we're going to see a Renin 7 here. What?
I'm really interested in this decision by Pure Art of the Ren, but I guess if Ren doesn't die, it can't be the only thing remaining in the battlefield after this farewell, alongside with the creature.
Sure. It's a deterrent for sure. Farewell doesn't get rid of planeswalkers, which makes sense. And this does allow time, as I was saying before, for Shigeki to get back into the hand, which is important. Again, it's part of that post-white plan here that Pure Hide Idols is weaving right now. So again, will there be a plan? And I'm sure Josh is thinking about the wipes too. They're probably taking a look at the deck list saying, okay, what is the most logical thing I can do to kind of forward my board state while, okay, so touch the spirit realm here. Interesting.
What do you think of the Elspeth that was drawn? I haven't seen this Elspeth play a lot yet.
Oh, Elspeth's very powerful. So my thought is that there's really no risk to playing Elspeth right now, right? Especially if Josh can get rid of the Renin 7, assuming, and I think there is an assumption here at this point that there is a white being held onto. It hasn't been exactly telegraphed, but there has been steps taken to kind of show a little bit about that post board plan here. So I think Josh has that instinct now as to saying, okay, what are my plans for a post wipe? The only thing Josh doesn't know is which wipe will it be, but you always prepare for the worst as a Magic player, right? So I think Josh is eyeing the Invoke Justice right now, saying, well, if my state's going to get wiped anyways and my graveyard's going to be wiped, I might as well take advantage of that. So that's what I believe is going on right now. I'm ready for Josh to come into the chat here and be like, actually, no, that's not what I was thinking. But that's what I'm assessing right now based on this. But again, I'm not sure what's going to happen here. There's a tension for the board right now, and Josh is doing the right thing here in the sense of Josh is forcing that wipe, forcing that board state, pushing the envelope here, saying, okay, I know you got this. Let's play it and let's get it done and over with. So
I completely agree. And if a couple of turns ago, I would say Pure Art at the clear advantage, now I think the advantage is on Josh's side. Like, they have been playing this so well, playing around this farewell, and suddenly, like, farewell, of course, being a great card, but already having a plan B. Although I will say this card here getting back to end, it can get a lot of value later on, especially when you have a lot of mana. It can just fill your end all over again. So
if I were to pick a card of the match right now, well, hang on, let me see this farewell. Let me hold what I'm saying here, and I want to see the decision here first, because I'm curious about the farewell here. And Pure Heart Idol, she's saying, get rid of it all. Just get rid of it all. Give me back my card, Touch the Spirit Realm. And I love the Reliquary decision here. Bye, Josh. Oh, go ahead.
I really like the card name because I think when you play it, it's actually like you're saying farewell. Like, let's see now.
Ooh, we do have a possible Titania play here, which is what we've been waiting for this entire time since we've seen the deck list.
But we are seeing what we were talking about now. Josh has so many cards in hand, so many options. Raffine Informant already being able to put whatever card Josh wants to put on the grave, which actually it's a portal of Phyrexia.
Portal to Phyrexia. Okay, I at first thought like, okay, you have to wait for the game to spiral out of control for that to be relevant. No, now I'm terrified.
Another one.
Oh
do you see
God.
that?
Yeah.
Oh
my gosh.
It has to be good.
If I could see, if I was in Pure Heart Idol's shoes and I was seeing the hand play out, I'd be like, really? Another one? Come on. And that's the thing about Josh that gives them the advantage right now, is all of that card draw here.
I completely agree. This has been such a fun match to see. I hope everyone watching the stream is enjoying it as much as we are, because it's been such a joy to see these decks do their thing and just doing crazy things. Every turn we're like, now Pure Art is as the lead. Now it's Josh. Now just back and forth.
I mean, yeah, I would love to see the timers right now. That's the only information we don't have presented to us right now. And it's a good match when I'm curious about the timer, because again, we don't know what's going on right now. But there's Portal again. And this is where it's rough, right? Because we saw some mill action going on from the bear, from the land.
And 9 damage is like nothing to be happy about, even though Pure Heart's still at 15. This is as a real clock, and I think this needs to be played now. Yeah, we need to channel now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the biggest advantage we can get in terms of cards, but we have to use the Visionary now. Farewell.
Oh, that's rough, right? Because you see the Portal to Phyrexia, and you have to play it at this point, right? Just there's too many things going on here, but let's see what's picked here. Picking the graveyard? This is what I want to know.
And okay, so we have Touch of the Spirit Realm in response.
Wow.
And land. It's the last card.
I cannot stress this enough. Both players are just playing out of their mind right now. Like, this doesn't paint a picture of the entire match. Like, this has been such an entertaining and skillful match right now.
And Elspeth, I'm loving this. This Portal of Phyrexia starting to get creatures. Elspeth just starting to put counters, and these Azuzas is not what you want to see.
So now I have to ask you, what do you think of Elspeth? You asked me that before. Now you're seeing what Elspeth can do in action here.
I love Elspeth. I want to see more of Elspeth. I want to see more of Ren. I want to see more of Portal of Phyrexia. I want to see more of these decks. I think we had enough. We had enough of all the Grixis. I love Grixis, but we had enough of Esper Midrange. I think we can start seeing these decks now. Reanimator, Titania. I like it.
I like it as well, too. And now I'm looking at Portal of Phyrexia, just shaking my head right now, just going, really? Really? Such a terrifying card.
I want to play with it.
Yeah!
I'm getting ideas for my next week. Me and you, Sky, we are both playing the VML as well, and I'm getting so many ideas.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. So again, just card advantage, card advantage, card advantage. That's the story of what's going on.
And these Elspeth creating 5/3/3 flyer angels.
Yeah. And can I just state, for the record, that 2 farewells have been played already in this match. You would never be able to guess it, but 2 farewells have already been played in this match. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the reason why this deck is called Reanimator, right? After
all
these farewells, it keeps getting things reanimating. I mean, such a resilient deck, and even though Pure Art's deck is also fun and really
I love Pure Heart's
interactive.
deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I just like ramp as well, you know. There was a
Mm.
point I didn't like ramp when everyone was playing ramp, but now that nobody plays ramp, I like ramp. So I'm excited to see this. And this attack here being really just destroying Azuzas and 9944. And now Pure Arts at 12 life and not getting the draw that she needs.
Yeah, but again, I can't stress this enough. Just GG to both players. Absolutely G. After watching this match, and I am talking about both players, irregardless of result. Both players, irregardless of result. I feel like since Brothers Wars came out, in comparison, I've been playing checkers and both of these players have been playing chess. And I just, right now, I can't believe it. I
I
just
feel the
absolutely.
exact same way as you. And I want to like thank these both of these players for bringing such cool decks and for allowing us to have the pleasure to watch this match. Really, really excited. Are you thinking of playing with Elspeth now next week, or at least a Portal of Phyrexia?
I will say I am going to go back to both of these decks at some point and do some play testing because they are ridiculous and they are fun and just both players just exhibiting so much skill. And while I'm terrified to be in the division with both of these players, my goodness, it has been a pleasure playing in the VML and playing in Division 3. So we'll see how, things turn out again. It'll be a wild race to the finish in all the divisions, but exceedingly since I concede in Division 3.
Yeah, and now we are approaching a new interesting match. It's Sarah versus Kora. And you were saying that we watched a match of your division, so now it's time to watch a match from my division,
All right.
Division 13. So I'm on Division 13. Both of these players are 3-on-1, first and second place, and we have Sarah here with Esper Legend. So Sarah is the player that defeated me as well. She's a great player and she is bringing Esper since week number 1. So she changed the variants of the Esper. So she started with Esper Midrange. Now she is kind of moving on to this Esper Legend deck. And I'm really excited to see what she's able to do because I can tell you she's a great Esper player. What do you think of this deck?
Well, first of all, any deck that plays Thalia is going to steal my heart immediately because I am a huge Thalia fan, and I know how you right now is in the shadows going sky with the with the fist waving, but I love Thalia. But in general, there's a few cards here that I wouldn't imagine I'd seen in Esper decks. So I believe it's called Tola's Clever Conductor. I love the decks that are just like remember when, and then you see cards and you're like, wait a second, I haven't seen this in action. What does it do? Because one of the greatest things about Magic is sometimes you get those cards that you don't see and they completely throw you for a loop. And I love seeing this. So this is a definite change of flow, change of tempo from what we've typically seen from Esper decks. But again, we have the one of Gix kind of lurking in the background here. Again, in terms of what Esper can do, this one does yet again do it all. And it's slightly different, which I always love about VML because you never know what you're going to see. This will definitely look different from the Esper deck we saw earlier on.
For sure, and as I said, Sarah has been bringing Esper since week 1. She clearly masters the deck, but it's cool to see that she has been adapting every week depending on the meta and what she thinks the opponent is going to bring. About this matchup, she said that she thinks it's unfavored because the opponent has 4 main deck downs, and she thinks that's going to be the only thing that's relevant in this matchup. So I'm excited to see how cut downs are going to really shift this match. And the opponent here is Kora, and I also played against Kora, another great player, and she is playing Grixis Midrange. So this list is a bit different than the one we saw with the Omni cult. It's more the traditional Grixis Midrange, but the 4 cut downs, as we saw on the questionnaire by Sarah. What do you think of this deck, Sky?
So it reminds me a lot of Rakdos, right? And I'm sure you kind of felt that way too, just based on what we're seeing here. This, I would almost say, if it wasn't for the blue, this looks like Rakdos value to me, right? Like, again, you're drawing those cards. And again, that seems to be a recurring theme of Standard. How many cards can I draw? How many Fables of the Mirror Breaker can I squeeze into every build that runs red? And this this seems like a really strong deck overall. And I want to note, because the folks can't see this who are watching right now in Twitch chat, the name of we have fun names in the VML, right? Because we like to mix it up here. You have the fun name, you have the archetype name. So yeah, we have Grixis Midrange. But the name of this is Please Don't Pivot on Me, Sarah. And I thought that was, you were talking about Sarah mastering, right? Sarah mastering that Esper here. And I absolutely, I got a good chuckle out of that. So I wanted to share that with chat. But in terms of an analytics side of you, this deck really, again, draws a ton of cards. We have Invoke, we have Fable, we have Bankbuster, and then you have the cards to hold the fort. You have the Flesh Gorger, which is good at the beginning and the end. Harvester, good at the beginning of the end. And then you have those Make Disappears, is also just so much value packed into this. And then, of course, the card that comes with Grixis, the Corpse Appraiser as well, too, which, again, just if you can draw cards and keep value on the field, go for it.
Yeah, I think one of the main reasons these players also get the blue going on instead of just playing Rakdos. And I like that Kora here on the questionnaire replied, why did you choose this deck? Sarah has been on Esper every week, and in my experience, Grixis beats Esper. So let's see here the match and see if, in fact, Grixis does beat Esper or not.
All right, let's go here. Let's take a look at the opening hands here for both players. Wow,
interesting ends here. A lot of to digest. We see on Kora's side, Make Disappear, Go for Throat, Fable. So we have counter, removal, and a win condition. On Sarah's side, we do see a Benck, Adeline, and Jadar. What do you think of these cards?
I would keep both hands. Like, I would snap keep both of them if I were to see them. But look at this. Just, again, something going on every turn for both players here. So again, we're seeing the difficult part of playing three colors, right? We're seeing the ping damage here. We are seeing, you know, some lands coming into play tapped. And we were talking about this earlier. How do you make these three color lands work here? So again, tale as old as time here. We have a Blood Tithe Harvester versus Jadar. Of course, right? That makes sense for this match.
I really like Harvester when there's a Fable. These cards just go together, and it's the most dynamic duo of Standard, I think. But I do like Sarah's end a lot. The Raffine here as well.
Oh yeah, I like both hands, but right now the hand that I like in particular is Kora's hand. I like the counter magic. I like the Fable in there. There's just so many possibilities. But again, Fable the Mirror Breaker is just an all-star here. But we're seeing a swing here from Jadar and, well, probably from the zombie because it regenerates as well. But from both of them, I think Raffine is also kind of an important card to consider too. So we're probably going to see the tower go down with the Benck to try to get that Raffine play going. But no, we see the Atwara being played, plus the Benck here. Also a good play here because Adeline could be played next turn to go with a wider board state.
And we have the Make Disappear, countering. I never seen this card play. Ashnod. Very interesting choice here by Sarah. And I like how she's definitely running not our typical Esper mid-range deck.
Yeah, again, Esper Legends is very different here. So yeah, Ashnod looks like a very interesting card here. Again, it's just a one drop that does things. I mean, you can't go wrong with it.
And we have a Raffine here, and there's not an answer for Kora for this Raffine, but what Kora does is a way to kill it next turn with the Go for Throat.
I like how Sarah is pushing the envelope here on the early board state, saying, okay, I know this deck has stuff to get rid of my stuff. Let's kind of push into life a little bit here while I do have a field. And just, again, Raffine now here. We finally get to see Raffine in action. Raffine got loose. That's the number one thing you don't want to see if you're the opponent facing the Raffine. Connive is just so powerful, and it can filter hands into everything that the player needs.
And here, Benck being a good card to go on the graveyard since it has flashback and it can come back later on. And that's what Sarah decides to do, to put some of them in the graveyard. We are going to see some trades here, but it was still worth to get all these cards. And one thing that I noticed is Shieldred in Hand, which is another key card in this matchup.
Yeah, Shieldred is There's never a bad time to play Shieldred, not unless you're at the end of the game and you know your opponent has a Lily of the Veil in hand.
Oh, look at this draw though.
Ooh.
Invoke Despair when your blue player is completely tapped out, but there's no mana now because these Fable discarded lands.
Invoke Despair is tricky to play when you're playing 3 colors, but I like the boldness because it's that powerful of a card where if you can successfully pull it off. Oh, now speaking of pull it off here, we did draw what I feel to be like the most different card in the deck here, but going with the Trusted Shieldred here, pretty good play.
I agree with you, but we do know on the other side, Kora does have an answer for this Shieldred. So, and a year where the removal, all the removal that Grixis carries gets really good. So, not even losing life, just doing it on the upkeep before the card draw, drawing now, Fable turning, playing a land tapped, still having a braid to kill something if needed, and the Invoke Despair has to feel good.
All right, so looks like we're going to see Tola's here.
Yeah, and we're going to connive.
A much needed connive too, might I add here.
Yeah, not a bad connive. Getting Raffines there, which is important now. And nothing else that Sarah can do right now. And we know that there's an upgrade there, but it's going to get discarded by the blood token. A land is drawn. And we are going to see how good Invoke Despair is here right now.
I really liked the play to go for the Invoke Despair there instead. That takes such difficulty to do because you don't know if that creature is going to run rampant there. So good judgment there on behalf of Kora.
I have to say something. The thing on questionnaires was all about cut down, and we see a cut down that is ready to deal with that Raffines.
Cut down's so difficult, like in terms of like, do I play it or not? Because if you don't catch Raffine right away, it's difficult. But yeah, what did the questionnaire say?
So Sarah said that she feels like this matchup is unfavored, mainly because of the 4 cut downs that Kora is running. And it makes sense because Sarah does have a lot of targets, as we saw for the cut downs. Kora getting game number 1 here, but we have an interesting sideboard that we're going to see. What do you think of these sideboard cards that Sarah is running? Brutal Qatar, Wandering Emperor, Disdainful Stroke.
The Disdainful Strokes are certainly interesting, but you can't go wrong with the walkers. You know, when in doubt, side in Planeswalkers. They throw a completely different curveball into the game there. So terrific sideboard there. And let's see what we have here. Again, there's Soren. See, I wasn't wrong about that. Those Planeswalkers love to make appearances. Oh, we also have Lily of the Veil too.
And cutting on the Invoke Despair. What do you think of that?
Good choice, because again, if you don't get your mana in time, Invoke doesn't do much except for sit into the hand. And the thing I like here is the early game. The style of the sideboard here is I'm going to play more for the early game. If I get to my late game stuff, great, but I'd rather just deal with stuff early. So great sideboarding there. And we definitely see that's a one-lander. That's a one-lander over there.
The first hand didn't seem terrible, but Sarah realizing it's not enough and now being punished because one lander into one lander. This has to feel so bad. And
wow.
I think Sarah needs to mulligan again, right? Especially on the play.
Yeah, and I mean, Kora's deck's not an easy accept either. I mean, you have some stuff and you can cycle if you want to and draw some stuff, but neither of these 2 hands are anything brilliant. And again, not a player fault thing. This is just the way Magic is sometimes. And that's what keeps us coming back for more, because you just never know what's going to happen.
And
my goodness.
Here I'm really feeling so bad for Sarah. Sarah, if you're watching this, I'm feeling it like it doesn't feel good. And what would you do? Would you move to 4? Would you like try to make these work, realizing like, okay, I probably don't have a lot of choices here, so yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the keep there, as tough as that is. But you have some stuff for 2 and 3 mana that'll work there, so it's tough.
And I think Kora on the other side must be like, oh no, also feeling bad for Sarah not drawing the second land there.
And we were talking about this in the pre-show, like here at the VML, we love to see, just the best matches possible. And even as players, we don't want to see this happen to our opponent, even with stakes on the line. We want to see good matches here. And this is so difficult.
Yeah, and the land that was drawn is a Genja, which is a legendary, so even that was not great. But Sarah playing it really well, getting the mana, then playing legendary rule applies, getting another mana, being able to at least play Talia. Which actually does some work because those invoke the spares are going to get a bit later. So if Sarah did get another land, it would buy her some time, but it looks like that's not the case. And this Etra is going to destroy Talia, but Sarah does draw a card, and there's a second land, maybe a bit too late.
Yeah, the timing on that Urtai is great. I mean, you feel bad for your opponent when that happens, but you have to take advantage of, you're playing for a tournament on the line. You have to just keep going. And while that was unfortunate, that game one in particular was really good. Like, really good game one for both opponents. And sometimes Magic's just going to Magic. But again, congratulations to both players. There's just that's a tough matchup to navigate, both of those decks going. And again, Tales all this time, two mid-range decks going at it, and you just kind of have to navigate through this maze of decisions.
Yeah, definitely these are things that happen in Magic, and both players played well, and it's really fun to see how Kora got the Grixis because she already know that Sarah was going to get Esper, and yeah, it ended up working out well. Sarah was correct. The cut down was really good game one, but I think even Invoke the Spur is just such an amazing card. Grixis has so many good cards. Fable, Invoke the Spur, Liliana. It feels like black and red just have all the good bombs. But we have one more, and it's the last game of the night, and it's going to be Sky Sweeney versus Paige. And I think you know Sky, right? You were telling before.
Yeah, I actually have had matches against both players. So Paige is one of my friends from the community, from the Magic community. Again, just wonderful person overall. And I have faced off against Sky Sweeney before, and we both have had terrific matches. So again, both players, again, I can't show bias, but I'm rooting them both on. I'm rooting for just good back and forth matches.
Same, and we are seeing Grixis Midrange again. So we just saw a bit of this deck, and we are going to see Sky playing with this deck. Card Swatch, Shieldred, Corp Appraiser, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, cards that we watched do amazing work last game. And what do you think of these decks? Same thing we saw Kora bring, maybe something a bit different?
Yeah, there's one card I do want to draw attention to, and it's in the sideboard. Burning Down the House. It's one where that can entirely change the flow of a match, and it is a card in red. We don't have to worry about the farewells or the depopulates. Burning Down the House can also make tokens if you draw it in an aggro scenario. So I love a wipe spell where you have options here. So I definitely take a look at that in the sideboard. But again, standard fare here for Grixis. You have your counter magic, you have Fable, the Mirror Breaker, Corpse Appraiser. So again, you're just trying to draw as many cards as possible here. Well constructed here. A lot of great decisions made here by Sky Sweeney.
And what is Paige running? We are going to see now the deck, and it looks like she chose to bring Mono Black Midrange, and I'm really happy. This was your choice this week, right, Sky?
Yes, I actually, I chose the exact same deck. There were a few differences, mind you, but yeah, Mono Black aggro, again, looks unassuming. You don't have Fable the Mirror Breaker, which was my biggest fear in running this build. But the good thing is you are off to the races quickly. You don't have to worry about a 3-color deck. You are just going at it. And this deck can get it done and get it done quickly. You even have Gix for the draw. So we were talking about Gix earlier. Well, here is Gix in all its majesty here, as it looks like a 3 of here, if I'm seeing this right. So really excited. You can also run the animated land as well, and you don't get a chance to see that too often. Again, monocolor decks have the luxury of adding this new land from the Brothers' War.
Another card that I really like is Misery Shadow. So it's also a new card, and it's even playing Pioneer a lot in the Rakdos builds. So I'm excited to see that card. It can be really aggressive. and it can dodge a lot of removal. I like that Paige said here on the questionnaire that she has been dying to play with a Geeks card for years, and playing mono black seems like a great way to do so. I completely agree. So let's watch this match, and I'm really excited to see how these decks turn out. What do you think has the advantage, Grixis or mono black?
I'm going to say it's very close, but I'm going to say narrowly the mono black, if anything, because it just gets under and it deals damage, and it deals damage quickly. But if the Grixis deck can get rolling, the Grixis deck is going to be very difficult to stop. So again, it's look for the early game with mono black, look for the later game with Grixis. But I'm going to say this is about as close to 50-50 as it gets here.
Yeah, Paige taking a mulligan, getting Invoke Despair in the end of the deck. And we already see that Sky does have a cut down, which is a really good removal. Blood Harvester and Fable of the Mirror Breaker. This seems to me like the perfect curve. 1, 2, 3. And okay, we have a counter now. So I wonder what Sky decides to do here. The red mana always enters tapped. So there's no possibility to play the Harvester now.
All right, so like this screams Make Disappear to me. I'm just gonna say, if I don't see the red mana coming down in Grixis for that turn 3 Fable, it's like, it's Make Disappear.
And pretty happy to see it there on the Phyrexia.
And I think that's why Paige didn't go for the Gix right away, right? Because the Flesh Gorgers, those are aplenty right now, especially early here. So now the question, if you're in Paige's shoes, is does Sky have yet another counter spell? And playing the Flesh Gorger as if, but now when you see that quick, it enters the battlefield, you're thinking, okay, this is good. So next turn, now that I know there's not counter magic involved, I could probably play the Flesh Gorger and go for it, or not the Flesh Gorger, Gix, and start drawing cards again, because that hand needs to be replenished.
And are you also playing, how many Geeks does your deck run?
I think mine played 3 or 4 as well, too. I think mine played 4. They're pretty key for the matchup, because this is one of the things that aggro always lacks is drawing cards. Well, Gix kind of fills that void, and the Flesh Gorger has menace. So you are just getting cards, as long as you can deal with the Gix on the field. And this is the theme for current standard. Can you deal with those really difficult threats right away? If you can't, you're going to start falling behind.
And here Fable showing the best. That cut down was not doing much. Both creatures are 3/3, they cannot be removed by the cut down. So Fable of the Mirror Breaker just allows you to have these situational cards that you can eventually discard to draw new ones, right? So it makes these decks much more consistent and able to explore cards that otherwise wouldn't see so much play.
I love the Corpse Appraiser play here because it forces them to keep Gix kind of on the back foot. But at the same time, and it also prevents the Foundry from being animated as well. But because of that menace again, now that forces Sky here into a kind of uncomfortable situation to pay 3 life, because again, you have to pay life in equivalent, or going after the Gix here. What a play. Wow, that's
I like
a tough
this.
play.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, Sky was just like, or Skybilz, I'm going to do this instead. I'm just like, whoa, okay. It's a great
That
play.
works too. And I see the Invoke Despair. There's enough mana. Would you go for it?
It's difficult, right? Because that 3/1 can just reanimate from the yard. And I love Paige's play here too, because now your opponent is in an uncomfortable situation where Despair really doesn't do as much as planned. I do think we will see a Blood Tithe played here, if anything, just because you're gonna be able to start replicating stuff here. So maybe we don't see Invoke here as we're seeing here. Maybe we're just going after that replication right away.
And Sky going exactly for that play, just going wide, just acknowledging that next turn there's a combo that can start running with this Harvester, and Misery Shadow entering the battlefield here.
With how wide both these board states go, it wouldn't surprise me if Invoke Despair does get cut in the sideboard here. I'm definitely going to be interested to see how both players sideboard, because cards like Invoke Despair, Cut Down, they're not going to do much in this matchup. So, it's one of the great things about Magic. We do get to sideboard, so there will be that. Paige going all in here on the aggro strategy, I like it, because that's what you have right now. You have your board state. If you hold back, you're giving Grixis fuel the more you hold back. So Paige is full steam ahead here, and I couldn't be happier with the decision making here. Even if this does not work in Paige's favor, ultimately, Paige is doing everything she can to win this game with the current hand that was been dealt.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also really like this play here by Paige, and now making a decision on how to assign the damage on the blockers. And it looks like 6 damage go through. Suddenly Sky is already at 8 life, which is not that high. And that Misery Shadow can get crazy really fast.
I love the patience that Sky is showing here. Remember, life is a resource here, and it's one of those things where only the last life point counts, right? So being able to keep the Harvester there, not panicking when there's a lot of pressure on being down to 8 life. And here we see the Invoke Despair being discarded. I like it. It's a spicy play. And we do have the Corpse Appraiser here. There's going to be a lot of duplication on the way from Fable of the Mirror Breaker. You got to trust in the Fable to deliver the winning blow.
Oh yeah, definitely Fable now with the option of Harvester or even Corp Appraiser getting a lot of value. And I agree what you were saying with before Sky, because a lot of new players make the mistake of being so afraid to go down on live that they make bad blocks or they don't attack when they shoot. So really nice to see here both of our players very experienced and using life as they shoot as a resource. That Harvester.
Right now, the thing that Paige has going for her is the life situation. 31 life, 8 life, trying to play that to the best of the ability. The thing that Sky has going for them is the board state's looking very much in Sky's favor. So, how do you assess that balance here? There is that Corpse Appraiser, though, and again, that generates just all that much more of the card advantage here. So, I think the thing that Sky is most afraid of right now is that Misery Shadow, the card you had pointed out, Filipa, at the beginning here. It's a pretty big factor here if you're Paige.
I really, really like this card, and we can see that, for example, this Harvester cannot do much because this is an activated ability, so Paige can use Misery Shadow's ability whenever she wants to, so Sky needs to play a bit around this.
Wow. That's a choice. That is a choice that exists in Magic the Gathering. Wow. You ever duplicate a 7 cost Phyrexian Flesh Gorger, Filipa?
Never, but I'm really interested to see it happen for sure. It reminds me of Valky times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Cut Down there. Not able to do much. Again, Misery Shadow ability being really, really good. And also, not only Misery Shadow has this ability that for 1 mana allows it to get +1/+1, it also has Menace, which can steal games if you have enough mana available. And Sky at 8 life.
So remember, this mana isn't necessarily a waste on Paige's side of the field, because again, that Misery Shadow can kind of keep forcing the envelope there, and it kind of takes things out of Blood Tide's Harvester's range as well, too. So not exactly the most optimal draw, but it does still do things here on this board state. And it looks like Paige is going downtown here, saying, all right, bring it, let's go. I love it.
I also like this play, Cut Down, being able to remove the 2/2 land, but still we have good attacks here. Paige is at 31 life. She has to use her resources now and apply pressure. Otherwise, Sky is going to get going crazy with this board, having the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I really like this play here. So this Misery Shadow can get to a 6/6, which means it's going to trade if these are the current blocks.
I just like, again, I know things are looking a little rough for Paige right now, but she's not panicking. She's playing to her outs. And that is so difficult in the heat of the moment in a tournament to kind of assess things fully like that. So I love what Paige is doing here. Sky's blocks also, while the blocks look a little shaky, still also not panicking here despite being at 8 life. Both these players just playing so well here in game number 1.
Completely agree. And we are going to see probably that Misery Shadow activation now. 3 damage are going to pass through. Sky is going to go down on 5 life. But the good news for Sky is that Paige will only have a 3/3 left. And what top deck you think Paige needs to get out of this situation?
It's rough, right? Because duplicating a 7-cost Flesh Scourger is just, it's ridiculous. I'll put it that way. It's ridiculous. And you need something to get rid of the Fable of the Mirror Breakers. But you also kind of have this big honking worm about to enter the battlefield. Just huge. Absolutely huge here. And oh, yeah, it also has haste. So
Yeah.
it's scary. And it restores life, too. That's the other thing.
This lifelink here, it's going to be really, really bad for Paige, because the only hope that Paige had was, okay, Sky is at 5 life. Maybe I can put some damage, be able to man. But now at 12, we need a good top deck here. Although Paige has time to get this top deck, right? At 30 life, as we said, there's some time still. But now 14 damage a turn,
So,
lifelink.
Paige needs to draw removal for the Flesh Scourger. If that removal is drawn, now remember, it can't be go for the throat because that's only for artifacts. But if Paige draws removal, there's still some hope here. That stops it from being duplicated. That's half the battle right there. So now we're seeing the joy of cut down here. That's quite the draw here by Paige. Now again, Paige isn't out of the woods here. This is a brand new game here, though, and this is really exciting. And with that being said, with that destruction, now we stop the replication process from going on here. So,
Harvester, also a great draw, not only a creature, but also allowing you to get the land off, getting a Corp Appraiser, and now we can start get things rolling again. And that's when Grixis gets better than these Rakdos decks or Mono Black. It's the ability of getting so much card draw answers. And here we see Misery Shadows as well from Sky. And
well, that's a choice.
Yeah, and we have Cut Down.
It's weird. Like, you can't live with cut down, but you can't live without cut down because of that Fable, right? It's like, do I play it or do I not play it? It's so situational in this current format.
Yeah, but that's what we said with the Fable. It gets a bit better because you can discard it if you don't need it. But at this time, we are seeing that it's not that great, right? It cannot remove anything. And are we seeing a double block here by Sky?
Maybe. Depends on what Sky's game plan is here. Paige is down to 12 right now in a dramatic reversal events from duplicating an enormous 7/5 life-linking worm. That'll do that. And yeah, we are seeing the double block here. Can't say I blame Sky here. They're like, I just don't want to deal with this anymore. And I can't say I blame them.
I also completely agree. I think that's a fine choice, realizing at this point Sky does have more answers, and this is a great top deck. Invoke Despair in the house, and Paige is not going to be happy to see this. How much damage is this? Is this enough? 7 + 3?
No, that's 10.
We are one off.
Close.
We are so close. But that card always coming back.
Well, here's the hard part, right? Now you can't deal with the Flesh Gorger. Oh, what a card
we have a
here.
Gix. So Gix enters the battlefield. And this card allows you to come back from the game, right? It's a card you're not too sad to see.
It's sad when you're at 1 life, though, and you can't pay to draw more cards.
It's too late, yeah.
I want to see Paige pay the one. Do it.
Go in style. Hey!
Yeah! We love going in style there. Well played by both players again. Just
What a
land.
first
Wow.
game. This
Lands,
was a
lands,
really
lands.
fun. We have been having very cool matchups here, and I've been really enjoying tonight. Uh, what do you think is the sideboard here? What is the strategy to defeat this deck?
Well, the big thing here is Grixis's greatest asset here is the ability to draw out of bad situations. And that was the difference in that battle, right? They were both going head to head. Both players were playing fantastically. The only thing there in terms of like the game itself that gave Sky that big of an advantage was the card draw there. We saw that exemplified by the blood at the end. They're being able to discard the lands and draw stuff there. And that is always my fear when you don't play red along with black is you miss that opportunity. Gix and I guess the underdog are like the sole ways of being able to draw more cards here. And again, it's strong early. It's very strong early, but late game, it gets very exceedingly difficult here. So we'll take a look at the sideboard here. And Paige here going through my dilemma. Cut down. You can't live with it. You can't live without it. It's a tough one. It's a tough decision here, considering that you're dealing with possible Fable of the Mirror Breakers here that you need to deal with here. So, I like the Invoke Despair here. I think it's looking like Paige wants to go under, and that's exemplified by the Flesh Gorger here being shown as a 3-drop instead of a 7-drop. So I like that visualization for the audience here. So here's what my curve looks like. And I love it when players do this. So you can kind of see the mindset behind sideboarding.
I also like cut down Fable, as you said, and also Harvester. Harvester is a key card, and I really like the cut down. But as you said, sometimes it's just we saw instances where it was just not good.
Mm-hmm. And again, Paige just taking time here. It's okay. You know, you can still win the next 2 games. And there's so much to consider here, right? Like Soren's there for card draw, Benck Buster's here for draw. So there is some draws that Mono Black can have. Invoke's good. Invoke might be here late. Not going all in on the yard here, which is reasonable. Your opponent could be sideboarding in some graveyard removal. So that's also a very good decision here. And Paige is really thinking, okay, well, what's going to give me the advantage in this next matchup? Because that's the one thing that your opponent doesn't know. Your opponent has the deck list, but your opponent doesn't know what you're going to add and remove. So you have to have that kind of aura of mystery there.
One thing that I really like here on Paige's deck is 3 Graveyard Trespassers. We saw that there was some interactions in the graveyard, so that's going to be an interesting card to see. And okay, looks like both players have decent ends. I see that Paige only has 2 lands, but going for it. What do you think of these starting ends?
I want to know that based on that sideboard, Paige is playing entirely for the early game. And that is what you have to do in this current situation there. So great assessment here. You have the 2 evolved sleepers early. You have a second one going. This is the cut down check here. There we go. Cut down check passed. This is just a very much, I'm going to just ram into your opponent. And if you have removal, great. If not, you're going to take an early deficit here in life. So again, Paige just picking the plan, sticking with it, not trying to do too much at once. You'll love to see that from an aggro player.
I completely agree. I really like this plan. And when you see so many different threats and small ones, suddenly these cards like go for throat don't feel that great anymore. Because you can only play one a turn, but your opponent is casting multiple threats.
Exactly here. And I love how you mentioned go for the throat here while Paige plays the Flesh Gorge, is something that can't be targeted by go for the throat. So I couldn't have said it better myself there.
And we have Corp Appraiser here, card of the moment. I think these Grixis players really getting a lot of value with these Corpse Appraisers, exiling Evolver Sleeper. And do we have a Corp Appraiser into a Corp Appraiser?
Yeah. Of course. Why not?
Yeah, I would say my joke again, Corp Appraiserception, but
no, that's welcome here. Don't worry about that.
Sorry, chat, for my magic puns. I think that's one thing me and Sky have in common.
Yeah, there's 2 of us now, though. All right, here. So again, board state's getting a little tangled here, but Sky is very much surviving here. We see a burning down the house there, but I think Sky just wants to keep the Corp Appraisers flowing here for sure.
I wouldn't be mad, like playing a creature, exiling your opponent's graveyard, and getting some card advantage. Seems like a win-win to me.
But again, Sky in the tank here, perfectly viable to think about, okay, well, what's my best play here? I have some Corpse Appraisers here. I could play the Lounge and cycle it instead. I play a second Corpse Appraiser. Like, there's a lot to consider here. So, great time to go in the tank here. Just thinking about, all right, what is my best option?
And I wouldn't be happy if I was on Paige shoes to see a second Corp Appraiser.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just keeps generating card advantage, yeah?
And a 3/3 body is actually very good here when the opponent has multiple.
It is
Oh, but
night,
it's
though.
become nights though. That's
So we're getting this pivotal duress here. Remember what I said? It's duress versus cut down. The duress here was chosen because, again, deck lists are exposed. There is no better card to duress if you're an aggro player than burning down the house here. And I'm sure Paige just has this enormous smile on her face right now because, again, it is an aggro player's joy to do that.
Yeah, and Sky did a good play, like thinking, okay, I'm not going to play anything. I have Burn the Owls. Next turn, I can kill both for 4s. This way, I'm also incentivizing Paige to only play one spell instead of 2. But now, this duress completely shifted these. And a 3/3 and a 4/4 attacking now, and Sky doesn't really have an answer for this, already at 6 life.
Yeah, it's also important to note that now there's no options for Corpse Appraiser either because the Graveyard Glutton was able to take care of that.
We do see Invoke Despair here, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be able to take care of some things. We do know that Paige has Go for Throat, so it can get rid of their Corp Appraiser.
Yeah, and it's going to remain night here as well. So
that's 5 damage, 1 missing.
Yeah, it's going to be 4 plus. Yeah, need to get another creature in there. There's the second burning down the house. That is very early to see both the board wipes in here. And now it looks like this is going to be game.
Can it? Yeah, because the land can become a 2/2 and we have that enough damage. There we go. And we have game number 3. So really nicely played here by both players again. That decision of not casting the burn on the owls end up being crucial. But I think it was a risk because it's not every time that you see like a mid-game duress.
Yeah. And you know, I downplayed, so to speak, a mid-game duress, but we've seen some beautiful mid-game duresses here tonight. Again, you don't expect to see it, but when you do see it, and it does work that way, it gets super spicy. And that was the game-winning card there for Paige, is a duress. You don't see it coming again that early, or even in that kind of a mid-game scenario, but my goodness, duress there just being the card.
Yeah, and now Paige being on the draw, do you think she's going to change anything on the sideboard or just leave it the same?
It's difficult, right? I mean, I think if I know Paige as well as I think I do, she's going to pick a plan and stick with it. She's not going to try to do multiple things at once. She's going to think about it. But I think she's going to pick a plan and stick with it. And she says, okay, maybe this aggro package is very much working with me. Maybe I ride or die with aggro, because that is the advantage you have, is to go under Grixis before it starts doing. And see right there, Paige is like, no, I'm sticking with my plan there. See? Perfect.
I'm excited to see this. This has been very interesting. Like, we had both interesting games, and now we see again, like, Sky only has 2 spells, but one of those spells draws you cards, so it's not looking too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think both hands are very much keepable. If you're Sky, you're thinking, I'll play, okay, please give me burning down the house eventually. But again, you can hold down the fort for quite a while. Again, life is a resource. You might as well not take a risk in mulliganing into, you know, a really awkward land situation, especially on 3 colors.
Exactly, and Sky does have the Harvester here, which does apply some pressure. We are going to see a Go for Throat in it though, so now 1 damage. Paige already winning.
Yeah, Paige again, picking the plan and sticking with it, which is what you need to do. It's one of those things where if you are looking at your sideboard saying, how much is this dramatically going to change my game plan? Yeah. And again, Paige is sticking with what is going to be the most successful here against Grixis.
Exactly, and there's a Phyrexian now, and these Fable really good here, being able to get some of these lands off Sky's End, because their end is really land heavy, and now we see something really, really good. Invoke Despair, Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Yeah, I mean, that alone is a combo, right? Because it's very difficult to play Invoke Despair in a 3-color deck, except when you start working in treasure tokens.
Exactly, and it looks like Sky is doing that perfectly. No attacks though, because there's a 3/3 blocker, but we see that there is the thing, like Paige doesn't have access to drawing so many cards as Sky does, although these evolve can draw cards eventually, but it's an high cost.
So Paige having some options here. I think we're gonna see a go for the throat here, or we're gonna see it turn in 3/3. We're going for the go for the throat option here. Just get both of those off the field right now.
But now you only have a 3/3, and your opponent, I guess you can play another one, okay, another Evolve for Sleeper, and Sleeper just really good here overall.
Oh yeah.
Getting the Bank Buster away. What do you think of this?
I think it's reasonable. Again, your Bank Buster is a little bit of a slower card to attack and defend, and you need to be going here. So I get why Sky did that. This is just a very ominous position for both players, because right now you're staring down two Kiki Jikis if you're Paige, and if you are Sky, you're staring down, you know, the Flesh Gorger and an Evolved Sleeper that can start doing things. And although that go for the throats there, both cards are still just big threats right now on board.
I completely agree there. And now we see this Corp Appraiser getting Sleeper exiled, and ooh,
Wow.
Children invoke Despair cut down. That cut down can immediately just remove the Sleeper, which is tempting.
That is very tempting, yeah. And again, one of the advantages that Grixis has is I can replenish my resources. The mono black deck cannot. So all of these are good choices here.
Exactly, that's the issue. They're good choices, so I'm really interested to see what Sky ends up doing. Ends up going for the cut down, and I think maybe going to be used instant speed. Okay.
I get what Sky is up to here. They want Paige to pay for the Evolved Sleeper, thus eating up mana versus just playing the cut down right away. Interesting.
And we have Misery's Shadow here. And I wonder how Sky is going to block this. That's a good block there. Making the Sleeper have to evolve twice. And then I would kill even Misery Shadow instead.
Wow. Let's see.
Oh, but with the go for throat, and then on Sky's turn, they can kill the Misery Shadow because Paige is tapped out.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just going to go for board state right now, if anything, and why not? That's what Grixis does best. Once it seizes the board state, it's really difficult to come back from. We also have the ability, though, to replicate Corpse Appraiser, and you know, the Invoke Despair play is also fair because you can draw a land. You can draw a land.
It's really tempting. Both plays are amazing. Like, one allows you to remove Misery Shadows now while this cut down works on it, and then you can replicate your Corp Appraiser, get more card advantage. This play is just gets you so much value. And here Paige is considering. I don't know how Paige can get out of this situation. I'm trying to think of a series of draws, but
there we go. There's
and there's the mana for the cut down.
Yep.
Okay, so we are
still
going
get
to
5.
Yeah.
Oh, just going for the 2. That's reasonable. Again, you're playing against an aggro deck. Reasonable. Underdog, though, huh? That's very interesting.
Blizz it or just playing it as a 3/2? That's the question. I think Paige needs card draw here.
I think
Yeah.
Paige needs card draw here as well, too.
Putting some pressure. Here, Sky decides to take it. And
Okay. That is a card, except for the Evoke Despair. The Evoke Despair kind of changes things here.
yeah, I was thinking if this is enough, but I think it's still a bit off.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, you got a couple Corpse Appraisers here, too. Corpse Appraiser gets rid of the underdog, too. So that is a twofold threat here.
That's a great point. I didn't even think of that, but that exile ability definitely coming in handy here for Sky. Oh, and a burn down the house.
Remember when I said that this card is good in either
Mhm.
situation here? Sky can use this for the tokens, since Sky is clearly ahead on board right now.
Definitely. And here we are going to see only an attack for 3. So I see that Sky playing conservative, trying to lock in the game, not making any mistake that loses them the game.
Yep, not overextending. They're definitely making a great play here for sure. Again, there's been a lot of temptations, so to speak, for Sky here.
I would fall so easily, like that's why these players are doing so well. In some situations, I would be immediately like falling for the easiest play, but I like the control and here we are seeing the combo.
Oh yes. So that makes more sense here.
And now making more sense why Sky played the way that they played. And yeah, this is going to be, I think, GG. Let's see. One more. And since this is played in the end of the turn, they will survive until Sky's end of the turn. So we now have, first of all, is Invoke Despair, which is going to get rid of one creature and then just deal 4 damage. And now there's a go for throat as well. Harvester.
Wow.
We can copy the Harvester. Get rid of the Phyrexian. Seems good to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure. Let's take some damage.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that seems to me like enough. I'm not the best at mathematics, but this is more than enough. And
wow,
what a great game Sky ended up taking this game against Mono Black. Are you surprised to see Grixis perform so well? We saw Grixis win against Esper, and now we saw Grixis again winning against these Mono Black. So what do you feel of this deck being the most played deck of the week?
Again, if it's got red, it can play Fable. It can come back at any point. It can replicate itself. Fable has just so many ridiculous win conditions unto its own. We've seen it get the token to fix mana for Invoke Despair. We've seen it discard and get back Portal to Phyrexia, which is still absolutely frightening to me, might I add. And then we see it replicate tokens. Is there anything that Fable of the Mirror Breaker cannot do? That is a question I have for folks as we proceed further into the season.
It does it all. And I want to ask you, Sky, what was the highlight of the week? Your favorite thing that we saw this stream?
That Boros Reanimator deck was ridiculous. It was just, watch out for Portal to Phyrexia, have a plan for it, and hope your opponent doesn't have a plan to bounce it back and forth so you can't remove it. Because if your opponent sticks a Portal to Phyrexia and there is just a way to protect it in a plan, I'm sorry. That card is just way more ridiculous, and that is the spice that the Brothers War brings into this. How about you, Filipa? What is your conclusion based on the matches we've seen this week?
I really think there's a lot of room to develop. We are seeing more fringe decks than ever. As we said in the beginning, 26 fringe decks, which means decks that have 2 or less copies of it. So that means that players are going wild, they're exploring the format, and I'm really liking that we had a lot of options in Brother Wars that allows us to just just explore all these options, all these different decks that we saw, the Titania deck, the Reanimator deck. We are seeing more and more versions of Grixis. We saw Esper Legends. So we definitely have a more diverse meta game than some weeks ago before Brothers War. And I think we're ending the stream here. We would like to thank everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you enjoyed the matches. I think we had some great ones. Don't forget, every Friday we are here at 6 Pacific time, 6 p.m. Next week, 2 different casters will be here. I think you'll be here again next week, right, Sky?
I believe I will be, yes. So I'm
Yeah,
looking
that's
forward.
fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
going to
looking
be
forward to it.
watching. And we would like to thank Wizards and Good Luck i5 for sponsoring the stream. Without them, this league wouldn't be possible. Thank you so much also for Phoebe running the backstage here, the technical things that you don't see. Thank you to you as well, Sky, for being here, for all the players and the viewers out there. I hope you enjoy it. There's only 2 more weeks until we then go to the top. I think it's 32 this time. So really excited to see these last weeks of the playoffs. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.